Welcome to the Chronic Warriors Podcast with Cassandra A. Campbell.
A platform to share,
Here,
and cheer chronic illness warriors.
Just know that when you made your commitment to your partner, you took their whole selves.
To be able to have a bad day, to be able to say, do you know what, I can't cope no more.
I am a chronic warrior because every day I wake up and I'm so glad to still be here.
Welcome, Chronic Warriors. Today we have another episode all about partners of people with chronic illnesses. And my special guest today is Stuart, who has been kind enough to join me to share his experience of being in a relationship with his partner who has a chronic illness. Hi, Stuart. Welcome.
Hi, Cassandra. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for joining me. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing okay, thanks.
Good. I'm just going to start off by learning a few things about you and your partner. Is that all right?
Yes.
Okay. So what chronic illnesses does your partner have?
Her main one is Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And because of the Ehlers-Danlos, she also has fibromyalgia.
Snap. Which type of EDS does she have?
That's a good question. Off the top of my head, I cannot remember. Because I think there's 11 different types, isn't there?
13 now, apparently.
Oh, is it 13, right?
Yeah, they keep changing it, so it is
right.
hard to keep up.
But it's one where her body doesn't produce enough collagen and her joints dislocate easily.
So it's possibly hypermobile, which is what I have as well.
Right.
Hypermobile is said to be the most common.
Yes.
But it's the one that they don't know what causes it, which is just fab.
Yes, absolutely.
But I know that there are others that are pretty similar to hypermobile, so possibly could be classic, I don't know, but that's not really that important. We know that collagen isn't produced properly and that subluxations and dislocations are very common.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about you guys. Did she have the symptoms when you first met her? Was it something that sort of happened after you met?
When we met, she didn't know she had EDS. She knew she had fibromyalgia, but it was going through a good spell. She'd had a really rough time in her late teens, and then when we met in her early 20s, she was going through quite a good period. She was very upfront about having this and that, she didn't know if it would come back or not. So we knew from the start that there was a possibility our relationship would not be everybody well all the time. But that was fine because, I let her know that I was a bit strange as well, and there was a family history of heart disease in my family. So, we were upfront about things.
So you didn't have any reservations or anything like that?
No, because I thought she was glorious, so that was fine.
Oh, lovely. So I've recently learned that you have a chronic illness yourself. Would you be happy to share that with us?
Sure, I have ME. So myalgic encephalitis, also known as chronic fatigue syndrome. They don't really know what causes this either, but it's thought to be linked possibly to a post-viral illness. I did have glandular fever. I had so my wife in the background just pointing out I'd had cancer before I had that. Yes. So about 12 years ago, I had cancer and treatment for that. And then a few years after that, I took glandular fever. And then things just seemed to slow down and stop wanting to work. And I was diagnosed about 4 or 5 years ago and got an official diagnosis.
Okay, so you're both living with illnesses.
Yes.
How do you find that? I mean, how would you say it impacts your relationship, if at all?
The upside is we've been able to spend a lot of time together, which is nice because we've had points where, at one point I was working 3 jobs, my wife was working, and when we did see each other for a little bit in the evening, we were actually mainly dealing with the children. So the quality of time we had together wasn't terrific. So we try and focus on what have been the upsides, and one of the upsides of Liz's health taking the nosedive it did, and then me having mine, is that it's allowed us to have time together, which we wouldn't have otherwise had.
That's wonderful. I love it when people can find a positive from a negative. I think that's really fantastic, and that's exactly how I like to try and navigate through life.
Yes.
And what about the downsides?
Daft little things like we enjoy nice food. and we would happily go out to more restaurants. But there's no point booking a table, because when you book it, we could both be okay. But by the time you come to go out, it might just not be possible. So that ability to do things, we were both active people with active hobbies. At the point Liz's health crashed, she was actually planning to walk the West Highland Way with her brother. She walked out every morning. That was her headspace time, because with 3 young children, she needed some time when she was able to think on her own without children asking things.
Yeah.
So she would go out for a walk for a couple of hours, and that's gone. She can't do that. You know, she's on crutches as far as the bottom of the path, and pretty much any further than that is in the wheelchair. And things like, we would have liked to be able to go and travel places and see things, and physically it's just not possible.
As much as we strive and we keep going, it does impact our mental and emotional health, whether we like it or not. That's my opinion anyway.
Yeah.
Would you say that that's the case for the both of you?
Yes. I personally still have issues coming to terms with the fact that I'm not as healthy as I should be, as I was. And I think Liz has had a lot longer to deal with it, and will, quite often say to me, look, you're trying to think like a normal, healthy person, and you can't do that. But we both work very hard on not focusing on that, because that's when it becomes very easy to be focused on what you can't do and what the problems are, instead of what you are able to do and where you can be going forward.
You kind of balance each other out and support each other in that way.
Yes. And we often joke that we can tell who is going to be having a bad spell because the other person seems to be on a little up. I don't know if it's a thing where, subconsciously, when we see the other person starting to get a little bit better, then something inside us goes, right, now you can have a little rest, and just shuts down.
Oh, wow. It sounds like a good balance in a way.
It is, yes.
I don't think I've met anybody in a relationship that has the same kind of challenges and then being able to work it out in the way that you described.
Liz is really good because she determines that when she's around other people, she doesn't want to be known as the ill person who we need to invite around sometime. So when she is around people, she works very hard to put on a smile and a brave face and to be happy. She'll pay for that in terms of exhaustion levels later, but it's been a really good example for myself to try and be positive, and yes, to concentrate on looking for what the upsides are.
It is really important, actually, to try and see the positives through the negatives.
Yeah.
I found that it really helps with regards to your quality of life, and what you were saying earlier about finding what you can do rather than focusing on what you can't do.
Yes.
It can be, everybody's affected in different ways, but there can be a lot that people can't do. But just finding that little bit of light at the end of the tunnel is what's helped me to get through and get to where I am today.
Yes.
And to have each other as partners who get things in one way or another, whether it's the physical, whether it's a psychological aspect of things, I think it's really, really wonderful that you have that in your relationship. Obviously, it'd be better that you didn't both have these conditions, but the fact that you do, and that you're finding a way to navigate your relationship and through life in general and parenting is fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Really. Thank you.
You've spoken about how you deal with it as a couple in a sense, but what is it I'm trying to say? So I'm having a brain fog moment here today.
That's okay.
I'm just going to be real and say,
yeah, absolutely.
It's been one of those days where the words are just not coming out as I would hope they would.
I know exactly what you mean.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is there ever a time where you sort of might get frustrated with each other, or is it really just so much so that you just both get it and deal with it?
No, of course there are times when things, no relationship is perfect. Fortunately, we've never been an arguing type couple, mainly because Liz's brain works at a higher refresh rate than mine, and she's quite vicious if she gets poked. So I am quite happy to not argue, because I hate going into an argument where I'm in the right and coming out on the losing side. And I learned that very early on. So, but sometimes you can point to a thing and say, right, that's the cause of it. Maybe I've left another pair of socks somewhere I shouldn't. And you apologize and you move on. And sometimes it's not, sometimes it is maybe because you're feeling down because of not being able to do things. And that can be tougher. But we're both very good at working on not taking that out on the other person. Mm-hmm. So yes, you have times where it's a bit quiet, and I get called grumpy quite a lot, but then children call their dads grumpy anyway, don't they? So that happens, and it's accepting it, not dwelling on it. And I think that's something we're also quite good at. Not holding grudges, not silent treatment days on end. You just have to keep going, don't you?
Yeah. And you know what? I keep hearing your partner's name's Liz.
Liz, yes.
I keep hearing her there in the background and comments. I don't know if she's feeling up to it. She's welcome to join us.
Cassandra said, "Would you just shut up and leave us alone?"
No, that's not what I said. Don't believe him.
She can't hear. I'm on my headphones.
All right.
Hang on.
You calling me vicious?
She can hear my side of the conversation. So.
All right.
I think she was objecting to when I called her vicious, but you can't object too much.
No, I can't actually, because I know I am.
Oh, well, maybe I could get her on for a chat another day.
Yeah. Cassandra also has EDS and fibromyalgia.
Ah.
Yes.
So she understands.
Yes, she knows.
Totally understand. So, okay, you really made me laugh today. So on that note, would you find that there are any kind of quirky, weird, funny things that Liz does because of her conditions? And the same for yourself as well.
It's strange you say about the pillows. I don't know if you have discovered this yet, but 6 months ago, Liz discovered the 12-foot long pillow. So it's a huge big pillow, goes up and round, and she's got one on her bed, and it allows her to tuck her hip and her knees, and so that, yes, like yourself, you know, she has to arrange the pillows to get comfy. And then...
Is it a U pillow?
Yeah, it's 12 foot long altogether, yeah.
Yeah, I have one of those, yeah.
Yeah, so they are terrific, and that's been a boon, because otherwise it was pillows all over the place and wedging them in. And then she has sleep apnea, so she wears a breathing mask to sleep. And because I snore so badly, she wears headphones. So getting ready for bed. It's a bit of a process, and she'll get everything on and say, "I just need to make sure you still find me sexy." I'm like, yes, that's fine, and she's right. I can get into bed now.
Oh, I love it.
And then I fall asleep and snore, so yeah, that's fine. Oh yeah, and twitch, yes. It's really strange. Liz is a death sleeper, I call it, because once she's asleep, she doesn't move. If something has slid out, she actually wakes up and then moves. She doesn't move in her sleep hardly at all. I, on the other hand, run marathons, I climb, I don't know what I do, but I'm an extremely active sleeper.
You run marathons and climb mountains in your sleep. Yeah.
Oh, I must be doing something, because, yeah, you wake up in the morning and half of the bed looks as if it hasn't been lain in, and the other half looks as if someone's been fighting all night. Stranger, quirky habits that I have, Liz?
Oh, you have so many, darling. Have you admitted the Asperger's and the ADHD?
She knows about them, yes.
So yeah, you have many and many varied quirky habits, my love.
I think one that sometimes, causes some frustration sometimes is I will have started a thought process in my head, run it all the way through, and then that leads to an action, and I've gone out. And I'll get a phone call saying, "Where are you?" I'm like, "Well, I'm on my way to so-and-so to get such and such." "Were you going to tell anybody you were going out?" I'm like, maybe not. And what's happened there is I've thought it through and I've gone and done it, and I've just forgotten to involve anybody in the process to alert them to the fact that I'm not going to be around.
Tell me a whole plan and a whole process and then do something completely different.
I take it you heard that.
Yes. So I'm not sure if our listeners would have been able to hear, but I heard Liz mention that you have Asperger's and ADHD.
Yes. Yes.
I wasn't sure if that was something you wanted to share, so I sort of left it to you?
No, that's fine. Yeah, I put it on my Twitter profile, and yeah, we got the diagnosis for both after the children were diagnosed. So my son was diagnosed with Asperger's, and we're reading through the diagnosis letter, and Liz turned and went, "This is you." So I went and I got, the consultant said, "Yeah, it tends to. Yeah, it's a genetic thing. It runs in families, so you're probably where it came from." And the ADHD. My daughter has that. My middle child, and
it was her diagnosis of EDS that prompted my diagnosis as well.
yes, and she also has EDS, hypermobile. It was her diagnosis which helped prod towards Liz getting diagnosed. I don't know how you found yours, but Liz had fibromyalgia diagnosis for years. ME diagnosis before that, then a fibromyalgia.
ME diagnosis as a teenager, then a fibromyalgia diagnosis in my 20s.
So yeah, she was diagnosed with ME in her teens. Was upgraded to fibromyalgia in her 20s. And then it was getting Cassie, our daughter, diagnosed that helped get Liz diagnosed, because no doctor had really thought to look at that with her before.
Wow, that's really fascinating that it's your children that have helped you both as adults get diagnosed.
Yes.
I
yes.
Attributed to also you both as parents doing what was needed to get their diagnosis.
Yeah, absolutely.
It sounds like between you, you've got quite a bit to be dealing with.
Yes, yeah.
Power couple to me.
My son, so he's now 21, so he has Asperger's. He's also epileptic. So he started having fits about 6 or 7. And it's only the last 2 years that managed to get a medication that keeps him from fitting. So you can still tell when seizure activity is going on, but at least he always had fits in the early hours of the morning. So I slept on a hair trigger for 10, 12, 13 years, something like that, because it was me that responded, because Liz couldn't. And yeah, then Cassie's got ADHD and is always very lively, but also has the tiredness from having to, her joints not working normally like everybody else. And her youngest daughter's autistic. So it's, it's fun and games.
Yeah, you're definitely a power couple to me.
Thank you.
With your own stuff and dealing with your children's as well. I'm in awe. I really, really am. Lucky to say that my son, although he is hypermobile, he doesn't have any kind of issues with it,
All right, yeah.
If I had to deal with my own stuff and then deal with his, I can only imagine.
I think you do it because, well, what else are you going to do? and that's the thing, you're not going to not do it. And so you deal with it. And again, it would be very easy to stray into, oh, how terrible things are. And we try not to, Growing up with Kurt and Annie as well for the autism, the Asperger's, we've always tried to help them think about it as being a reason, not an excuse.
Yeah.
So you know why you think like that or why you respond in these ways, and that's fine. But it's not an excuse for you to continue to respond in ways which upset other people.
Yeah.
And so to help them go, yeah, you do think about things differently, but you also have to think about how other people are affected.
Yeah.
And that helps. Giving them a mindset that allows them to work as non-neurotypical people in a neurotypical world.
And that's the thing, giving them the foundation and the mindset, that's what's going to help them to navigate and get through life.
Yes.
As much as you say it's just what you do kind of thing, I really, really commend you, and I think it's wonderful just in the short time of us chatting. What you're both doing, I think is wonderful. You are like my chronic illness power family. Most definitely. That's brilliant. And I think you be a fantastic example to other people.
Thank you.
Maybe, have a similar situation to yours.
Yeah.
I think it's brilliant. So really don't underplay what you're both doing as a family, as parents, as partners. Don't underplay it at all.
Yeah.
Wow. I wasn't expecting to hear all of that. But it's great because I love that it's brought a different angle to our conversation.
Yes.
Okay, brain's doing overtime. I wanted to ask you, but in some ways you might have already said it, what you admire most about Liz. But I'd also like to see if Liz could flip that and answer the question about you.
Okay. What do I admire most about Liz?
Apart
We're not going to say that one. She said, apart from her bum. It's that determination. When she is around other people, she doesn't want to focus on her illness. She wants to be an enjoyable time, and she wants to get the enjoyment of being around people. So she will sacrifice her later exhaustion and downtime. She will put that out as a worthy expense to be able to enjoy time we have when we do. So this weekend, my brother and his wife were down. They had a little cottage nearby for a day or two. And that's the first time we've seen them in ages. And we had time with them, and we had time with my cousin who lives close by. And that's taken a lot out of Liz. She's marked it down. It's going to take a few days to recuperate and get back into normal routines. But it was worth it for the time that she had.
I would like people to understand almost everything that we do, we have to sacrifice something and there is a consequence.
Yeah,
down
absolutely.
To the smallest things which for somebody else would just be a normal everyday thing. So we have to prepare ourselves. Okay, well, if I do this today, this is a possible consequence for the next few days. Like Liz, I've had to get to a point of I need to have a life. So
yes.
If I do something that I find enjoyable, it's worth the sacrifice of the fatigue or the pain or whatever it might be. And that's definitely how I think about things. Otherwise, likely is having this from childhood, you just would never have had a life.
Exactly, yeah. And I think, I wouldn't say it's been easier for Liz, but because she's been dealing with it from childhood, she actually's never known different. So she's always had to do that. Whereas I found that more of a struggle because I used to just do what I wanted. I used to do more than one thing a day. And now it's like, right, because we live down in Cornwall, we're a mile from the sea. And for the ME, I find a dip in the sea really good. It helps with the burning and the inflammation. But some days I have to look and go, well, I can't today because if I do that, that's going to have been too much energy used for this other thing that I need to do. I think I'm beginning to get there. But so some days, Liz will look at me and go, why did you try and do all of that today? That was never going to happen. Because having once been a normal, healthy person, I wasn't normal in, air quotes. Yeah, it still takes some time to get used to.
Yeah, that pacing thing. I think I've more or less got my head around that, but I do have my times when I slip. Overdo it. But you've got to just get yourself back on track.
Yeah, absolutely.
So would you ask Liz for me?
She's actually tucked down.
Oh.
I just put my head round the setup. I've got a little curtain. So I put my head round and she's actually snuggled down. So she'd probably wax lyrical about me being tall and manly and capable and, just nauseating stuff. Oh, she's not fully asleep. Would you like to say a kind word about me? She's just shaking her head. She says she can't think of anything.
I thought I would take my breathing mask off so I could actually be heard. Cheekies. What have I to say about you, darling?
I'm going to give her the headphones. She's just shuffling over.
Okie dokie. Hi, Liz.
Hiya.
Nice
How you doing?
To you directly. I could hear you.
I know.
Out there in the background.
I know. I'm a cheeky so-and-so just sitting in the background making comments.
Oh, don't. You've made me laugh so much. I love it. I've been really exhausted today and that's really perked me up. So thank you.
Oh, good. Good.
So the question was, what do you admire most about Stuart?
I tell you what attracted me to Stuart first of all, and it's something that is still the same. He is the most generous, kind person you would ever hope to meet. If you need help or you need something and it's within his power, he's there. He'll do it. He'll give you the shirt off his back if you needed it.
Oh.
And he's just, he cares so much for everybody. It's wonderful.
Oh, that's nice.
He's a good one. He's a good one. He's also a very good cook, which is quite wonderful.
Oh, okay. Changing it so far, otherwise I'll be inviting myself around for dinner.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So while you're here,
how
are you feeling today?
Oh, I'm okay. I heard Stuart telling you we had a busy weekend, so yeah, my pain levels are pretty high today, so I've taken some extra painkillers and I'm just going to have a bit of a sleep. But yeah, I'm not too bad.
And Stuart was telling me that when it comes to the mindset and the coping and things like that, that you've been a bit of a rock and helped him through challenges of accepting his situation.
Well, absolutely. The thing is, I don't know about you or what you found, but I spent many years being angry and fighting against my illness, and actually made me iller.
Yes.
And when you find a place of acceptance, and by acceptance I don't mean giving in, I mean accepting the situation as it is, and then finding the positive and the joy in it, you actually can improve your health a little bit.
Yeah, I've been through the same process. I've actually created a course around it.
Really?
Yeah, that whole thing about, first of all, acknowledging how things affect your life, and then the acceptance, because like you, I went many, many years. First of all, I never got diagnosed for 20 years.
Yeah,
So
which doesn't help.
It does not help. So it impacted, I started having symptoms. I don't want to go on too much about me, but I started having symptoms as a teen.
Yeah, I was the same.
Until I was in my 30s is when I got diagnosed.
Yeah, so, I was pretty much the same, actually.
Wow. So we got pretty similar stories and ways of thinking of things.
Yeah.
But like you, I was angry, I was down, had no hope or anything for my future and for my life. And it wasn't until I really acknowledged what was going on, even down to how it made me react to things and people. And it was easy to accept once I got diagnosed, look, this is what it is. And once I started that process, I started to change my mindset and find ways of coping and ways of saying, okay, so I can't do this, but what can I do? What different direction can I take? Because this is not all that there is to me.
Exactly.
There's more to me than having this pain and these conditions.
Yeah.
And I want to have a life,
Exactly.
We're totally on the same page. It doesn't stop you being unwell or tired or having the pain, but I know that when I'm stressed or in a bad place, it prolongs it.
Oh, definitely. The more positive you are and the more cheerful you are, you just get that wee bit extra lift, I think.
Yeah.
But one thing that I'm really glad about is that my daughter got her diagnosis when she was 7. Mm-hmm. So we've been able to help her since she was 7 to get her coping mechanisms into place. Yeah. So she doesn't have to go through the same thing that I did. And hopefully she'll not get quite as bad because she'll not push her body and force her body to do things that it's not supposed to do.
And that is massive, getting an early diagnosis. Also having parents who understand as well that can, like I was saying to Stuart, help your children with the mindset, with the coping mechanisms, etc. That is just massive. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. I would totally agree.
You guys have made me feel quite emotional today, but in a
good way. That's nice.
It's been like lots of laughter, but also that just admiration for you as parents and as a family as well, and how you seem to be coping with things. I just, I said it to Stuart before, I just find it fantastic, and I just think you are my power family, and that's how I'm going to refer to you.
Oh, well, that is very, very kind. That's very kind. Yeah. Lots of laughter is how we deal with most things. We're very irreverent, and we make, laughter is definitely our best coping mechanism.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh, it's been so wonderful talking to both of you. It's really made my day, actually.
Oh, well, that's good. I'm glad. I'm quite happy now. I'll go off for my nap. Quite happy now.
You're going to do a nap now.
Yeah.
Joining us. I hope that we get
no problem. Again. Yeah, that would be great. I'll give you back to Stuart now.
Okay, lovely. Thank you, Liz.
Thanks. Bye, love.
Bye.
There we are.
Hi.
That was Liz.
That was great.
Good.
So, wow. Where do we go from here? All right, so we know that there are several charities and organisations that support people with chronic illnesses, but do you think that there's enough support for partners and families?
In general, no. Because there has been both Liz and Kurt and Annie have all received DLA or now PIP, we've been able to cope financially. Mm-hmm. If it had just been one, I'm not sure how we would have coped. It's the ugliest upside of the situation is that financially, we're not well off, we're not minted, but we've been able to maintain a house and not have to worry about feeding everybody, which certainly over the last year has been a struggle for a lot of people. But I think it's the same for a lot of families where the partner is the carer. It's there's a lot of work that's being done that would be very expensive for the state or for a charity to have to pay for if that person wasn't there.
Most definitely. So what would you like to see happen?
Yeah, a million quid.
Possibly being realistic, but I'm asking anyway.
Do you know what? I think our biggest is with regards to housing. So at one point we did have a house and then we moved. And this was before, we both became as ill as, well, before I became ill at all and before Liz became as ill as well. And we moved town and the house we were going to buy fell through. And so we ended up renting and we've been renting ever since. There is very, very little in the way of secure housing for people who are in our situation. Extremely little in our whole catchment area, and we want to stay within the area because we love it. I mean, there's that, but also our children have made friends, and with autistic children, that having them make good friends is quite key for them, and you don't want to be uprooting that unnecessarily. So in our whole catchment area, there's only 2 properties available for rent through a housing association or the like. Right. And as you can imagine, demand for those is quite high. So I think the biggest thing would be secure housing for people in our situations. We've got our good landlady, and with the best will in the world, she said she was quite happy to take us. We were recommended to her after our previous landlord tried to put the rent up by 25% in one go. And she says she's looking for someone who's going to be in the house long term, and that's great. But at the same time, we're also very conscious that if one of her kids comes to her and says, "Mum, I need a house," then she's probably going to go, "Well, you can have one in 3 months." And, as a parent myself, I wouldn't say there's anything wrong with that. I would look after my children in that way. But what it means is you're never 100% settled, because at the back of your mind is, well, what if they need to sell? What if something happens? Whereas if some form of secure housing would help alleviate that.
Yeah, it's a challenging situation.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to know how many others are in similar situations and feel the same way.
Yeah, I think it's something we've only recently fully understood, because where we were in Crieff, it was a letting company and they had 20 or 30 properties that they let out. So we did feel we had some security. So I think it's only with moving down to Cornwall and being in the lets that actually it's come into focus a bit. And because of what happened with the last landlord as well, that, yeah, we've really focused on it.
I really, really hope that your landlady's children don't come and ask for a house.
So do I. Like I said, we also know a couple of the kids, and it doesn't look likely, but it's just at the back of your mind.
Yeah.
It could happen. Just because it's not likely to happen doesn't mean that it's not something you don't worry about.
Just having that uncertainty along with everything else that you've got to be dealing with can't be nice.
Exactly, yes.
I totally get that. Well, I'm going to put some positive energy out there. That you're going to be there for a long, long, long time. So I am going to draw our little chat to an end.
Okay.
Before we go, I would just like to know, do you have any kind of advice for someone who's in a relationship or considering a relationship with somebody who lives with a chronic illness?
Yes, you have to be fully honest up front. That's basically it. You have to be. And if you don't think that you're going to be able to be there to support that person and be part of their life when they're needing that, then it's probably best not getting involved. That can be hard because it might be you're already partway, you've maybe already started a relationship to some extent, but it's probably better to finish it now before both of you are maybe committed than to get 3 or 4 years down the line and decide, actually, this is more than I thought I could do.
Yeah.
And then I think, as you maybe picked up from Liz, and something I've said as well, you look for the positives. Things are going to be tough, especially as the healthy person. And, it's only the past few years I've been as non-healthy myself. But when you're seeing your partner struggling, especially if it's maybe a degenerative disease, so, they're going to get worse over time, and you're going to have to watch that. And that's going to require that you have strength to be able to cope with that and to be able to give them the support that they're going to need.
Yes, it's definitely a lot to think about.
Yeah.
But I think speaking to you two today, what you said about the whole laughter thing, I know that helps me with my relationship as well. Is laugh about the crazy things that my body does and
Yep.
Things like that. And having someone to share that with has really helped me.
Yeah.
And yeah, you guys sound like a lovely couple, and You know, we all have our challenges in relationships without chronic illness being part of the mix, but you seem like you've got it all on point and you know what you're doing. So
It's a work in continual progress, and that's how it has to be.
yeah, it sounds like there's lots of love and laughter in your household, and that's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's been such a pleasure speaking with you today, you and Liz, Stuart. It's been absolutely lovely.
Thank you.
Our chat went in directions I wasn't expecting it to go. But it just worked out perfectly as far as I'm concerned, and it's
Good.
a lovely chat. So thank you so much.
No, thank you for inviting me. It's been fun.
Well, you take care of yourself, and
I will do.
You and Liz again soon.
That's brilliant. Yes, will do. Thanks a lot, Cassandra.
Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Chronic Warriors Podcast. Please remember to like, subscribe, comment, and share this podcast.